And now Oppenheimer, in which Christopher Nolan boldly challenges the stereotype that he's constantly returning to films about complex procedural narratives as metaphors for their own creative process and recurring subtext where great works can only be properly accomplished by sternly serious men in sharply understated suits haunted by dead wives or girlfriends, by offering, no, they can also be haunted by a dead mistress. Haha! Anyway, what we've got here, apart from a belated maybe now they'll stop pronouncing my name with an S star vehicle for Cillian Murphy, is a biopic of Robert Oppenheimer, a man who developed the atomic bomb, told via Nolan's preferred method of nested flashback Russian doll nonlinear narrative because our main narrative is a life story centered on becoming a famous professor, doing political activism, building the Manhattan Project, doing the bomb, and then feeling conflicted about doing the bomb, and then getting dogged for earlier said activism, later maybe as ironic cosmic penance, which is in turn seen through flashbacks from a later security clearance revocation hearing, which he's being grilled about the activism, and then getting dogged for earlier said activism, later maybe as ironic cosmic penance, which is in turn seen through flashbacks from a later security clearance revocation hearing, which he's being grilled about the activism, vis-a-vis hey, it's the 50s and communism is bad now, which are themselves actually flashbacks by Robert Downey Jr. as the bad guy who orchestrated the hearings out of a personal grievance, in the film's version of events at least. It's a very interesting and very Christopher Nolan approach to effectively push the whole nuking Japanese civilians, bad or not bad question, into a realm of just one of several morally questionable oopsie-doos, alongside trying to poison a teacher he didn't like, tattling on a buddy one time, and screwing over a girlfriend that add gentle but not that ungentle unease to the protagonist's sense of great man inner psyche turmoil, while the main hero versus villain arc ends up being about two guys using legal technicalities to wound each other's ego secondhand via committee for perceived personal slights. Hey, look, if it sounds like I'm being dismissive, it's only because I tend to get my quills up about anything I'm told I'm supposed to approach with absolute reverent seriousness just because, especially when it's something that takes itself too seriously as well, and I mean, it is a Christopher Nolan movie after all, that's what we're dealing with, but it also means it's pretty damn good. Way too long, definitely, even while well-paced. It's more of a structural issue this time, where I'm not 1,000% sure that all the different threads are lining up in the did we need all of this, or is it just that the subject matter feels like it had to be this long? But make no mistake, pretty much every character works. The performances are really good, out of Downey and Murphy especially, with Emily Blunt and Florence Pugh doing great jobs in their roles as well, especially considering that they have to participate in the most bizarre out-of-place scene in the film, which is well outside Nolan's usual wheelhouse, but is definitely something. It's an earnest, well-informed film that gives you a lot of material to chew on, takes its history very seriously, and you get a great sense of how all this stuff works, which is really something considering the density and import and great number of large rooms of many people doing many things, storytelling you're dealing with here. And yes, the much-touted practical explosion scene is suitably epic. The sweep of history is appreciated, and obviously I'm as much of a mark as Nolan is for stories about scientists grappling against bureaucracy, even if it does push the larger questions down into more of a secondary place than perhaps the narrative might have otherwise demanded. I would call this a 7 out of 10. It's not quite the character piece that you'd want it to be, but as a procedural narrative, no one does it better than this.